Good evening or good morning or wake up, David.
Oh,
Wake up.
okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to hoopsht.com. This
Is it
is our
morning yet?
championship week video notebook,
Morning.
day number 14. It is now officially 2 weeks of championship week. We've got to be at Selection Sunday.
Not yet.
No.
I don't know. Well, yeah, we are. We are. That means you can let me out of the bunker now. You can
No,
let me
we're
out
not.
right now.
I'm your host, Chad Sherwood, joined by David Griggs, Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org back joining us. David did wake up. John Salika, I think he did not wake up. I think we lost him for the
Our
night.
good friend John Stalika fell asleep
I
during
think
the
he,
race. Oh
um,
God, that's awesome.
this is our championship week video notebook, though. We've got a lot to get to tonight. This is the busiest day of championship week by far. Um, we just start with news and notes, and then we'll go through all the conference tournament games that were played and preview all the games that are coming up tomorrow. A couple news and notes, conference specific. I think we'll hit those when we get to those conferences. But I guess one note here, we're hearing that Xavier might be trying to schedule a non-conference game for this weekend, maybe at Davidson, something to keep an eye out for. But David, we began our mock committee, our Hoops HD mock committee, and we had two big announcements to make because we have two award winners to congratulate here. Hello.
Did we lose David?
I think we lost David. Do we have Rocco? Do you still there?
I am here.
All right, we still have Rocco. We lost David.
It looks
Well,
like
Rocco.
David.
Oh, okay, we're
there he
back
is.
in. Yeah.
This is going great so far.
I would say let's start over, but who would want to do away with the beginning like that?
What I was saying was that we have two award winners to announce for tonight.
Oh yeah, okay. So news and notes. Okay.
The Centenary Award has been awarded. This is our award for the worst team in Division One. Congratulations to the University of David.
Denver Pioneers.
Yes.
A first-time Centenary winner.
Congratulations. Yeah, they were our Centenary Award winner. We also gave out our Stallings Award to the worst power conference team. It's limited to the power conferences in the Big East. No surprise. Congratulations to the Iowa State Cyclones.
Yeah. And again, Steve Fromm, one of the rare coaches, as John Titel astutely pointed out, he went through a season where he lost just 2 games. That included the loss in the NCAA tournament to, I want to say it was it Marquette that knocked them out that year when he, as the head coach at Murray State. This year he won 2 games. How many coaches have had a season where they lost 2 games and another where they only won 2?
Oh, it balances out.
maybe Kevin Stallings. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, so he won the Stallings Award. So
Yeah,
congratulations.
so he won the Stalling Award.
Let's get right to the games that were played, though. There's a lot of them, and we're going to start things off in the ACC, which is the other piece of news and notes for the day as well. One of two other, but the most significant. Rocco, you can see there the third quarterfinal did not happen because of Duke.
Yeah, sad to see. No matter what your feelings are about Duke as a whole, you don't want to see a tournament where everybody's put their heart and soul into the season and get finally to the finish line, like we saw with Northern Iowa last week. It's happened again here with a much more recognized program where everybody's kind of interested in what they're doing, and so to see Duke get shut down because of a COVID positive test is kind of speaks to how quickly it can end for any team. And that goes for, any tournament this weekend and of course the big tournament coming next week. So just another reminder, harsh reminder, because Duke still had the opportunity to play themselves in, and now it just abruptly is over and they won't be playing in the postseason.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's just like, you hate that they don't get the closure. Everybody gets to play until they lose. Typically, that's how it works. Duke didn't get that chance. Neither did Northern Iowa. Who's to say they wouldn't have lost? But you don't want to. You don't want to always wonder, would we have been able to win one more? How much further would we have been able to go? I just kind of hate to see that happen. And it's just the reality of this year. It's the season from hell.
Yeah. As a result of that, Florida State did not play. They got a bye a pass right into the semifinals, where they're taking on a North Carolina team that looked very impressive, David, against Virginia Tech, I thought.
Yeah, very impressive for the second game in a row. Not that Notre Dame was anything special, but they were playing seemingly a little better. North Carolina blew their doors off, and then basically, controlled Virginia Tech, a really good Virginia Tech team. A lot of momentum. North Carolina has not been solid all season, but they picked a good part of the season to start playing really well.
Yeah, and that gives us this Florida State North Carolina game. I think North Carolina at this point, Rocco, I think they're a lock at this point. I think they're in the NCAA tournament. There's no doubt left in my mind, at least. But what do you see in this game tomorrow?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think they're in. And I see this is one of the few teams out there that can match up well with Florida State. North Carolina's got the size in the interior to be able to handle the Seminoles' length. We saw them play a couple weeks ago. North Carolina beat them by 8. So we'll see if they can do it again. Florida State hasn't played since the loss to Notre Dame still because they didn't have to play today. So really curious to see how they show up. I'm sure they want to at least get one win under their belt before the tournament. And if that happens, they're in the final suddenly.
Yep. Top half of the bracket was a heck of a couple of games, including Rocco. Let me stick with you here for the Virginia Syracuse game. Maybe the game of the day.
Yeah, great game. Syracuse got off to a hot start. Buddy Boeheim, once again, second day in a row, was just scorching the nets in Greensboro. He actually had his career high today, I believe, a 31-point performance. And, unfortunately, it came down to a final possession where Virginia had the ball and Syracuse kind of over-rotated on one half of the court, left a man wide open. It was Reese Beekman, the super freshman for Virginia. And he just buried it at the buzzer, and Virginia wins by 3. And that's just like that, it's over.
Yeah, and just like that, and they move on to play Georgia Tech. David, Georgia Tech got a battle from Miami, actually.
Yeah, Miami after
a 7 players on Miami, the entire team, but
but still got a battle. And this is a Miami team that we thought was going to be much better, would have been much better had it not been plagued with injuries and everything else. You saw glimpses of that throughout the year. You definitely saw it in the tournament, even the game today that they didn't win. So but Jim Larinaga, an awesome coach. I think that this Miami program is going to bounce back in a big way next year. And the silver lining again is, like them, the season from hell is over. They can focus on a more normal year. But Georgia Tech really had to sweat this one out. I think this Tech team, another good story, Josh Pastner probably doing the best coaching job of his career this year and has them seemingly on their way into the tournament. Would you agree with that, Rocco?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
At this point.
I think they're in.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the worst they can do from here is lose to Virginia. Nothing wrong with that.
Right, and I think they do lose to Virginia tomorrow. I think Virginia, they just are not going to be able to match up with this Virginia team. Not in this game tomorrow. So, but that is the semifinal set: Virginia, Georgia Tech, North Carolina against Florida State. That's the ACC. Let's jump over to the Big East.
Okay.
The Big East, which started the day off with David. We did our show last night. I thought that Villanova was going to win, but I really was paying attention. Thought we need to pay a lot of attention to this game here because I was concerned about Villanova without Gillespie. And sure enough, Villanova did not show me anything, just like they didn't show me anything against Providence without him.
Yeah, and while the data is limited, it's very easy to conclude that they're not the same team without him as they were with him. And this isn't just one game where they've struggled. It's been several. Real good effort by Georgetown to get the win.
I mean, they stole it late. It was a great finish.
Yeah, it really was. They hung in there and they did kind of steal it late, like you said. Another fun thing that happened today, security at Madison Square Garden apparently did not recognize Patrick Ewing, kept asking him for credentials. His jersey's in the rafters, by the way. But yeah, real good one here.
Yeah, they get now Georgetown moves on, Rocco. They get Seton Hall, who won a real tough game, overtime win over St. John's there.
Yeah, very interesting game. It was a battle all the way through. Seton Hall, St. John's just played last weekend. So it was going to be difficult for the Red Storm to beat them 2 games in a row on that quick a notice. Seton Hall really brought it. Sandro and Roden and Kale, upperclassmen, and you can just tell like that was just a little edge Seton Hall had over St. John's in those critical possessions. They They really kind of wanted it more. If you could feel that watching the game, and it carried through, even though they had to do it in overtime. They really kind of owned that overtime session.
Yeah, and now we set up this Georgetown versus Seton Hall matchup here. That Seton Hall team that needs more wins. That I don't think they're there yet. Rocco, I
Right.
and now the question kind of like beating Georgetown, is that even enough to get them there, or are they in a position now
No.
where they've got to win the Big
No,
East tournament?
Yeah, you just got to win the whole thing now.
because well, beating Georgetown isn't enough, but beating Creighton or UConn probably is. That could get them the at-large, but by that point they would have already won.
Right. And
Right.
Creighton rolled over Butler. UConn rolled over DePaul. Not much discussed there, but I think we have a really interesting semifinal because I was worried about the way Creighton might be playing with their off-court issues. They look so good. David, this could be a great game here tomorrow, Creighton and UConn.
Oh yeah, it will be, and especially with how UConn has bounced back. I think what have they won 10 of their last 12 or something like that? That's probably that doesn't sound right, but I I really
just make up stats, sure.
Just making up stats, but they're back at full strength. They're definitely a much better team at full strength than not. UConn might win this whole tournament.
Yeah, and let's not forget, like, UConn's return to the Big East officially after a COVID shutdown back in December. Their very first Big East game was that home Creighton game that was like a classic. Went to overtime and they lost at the buzzer, but it was a game where Bouknight was healthy. UConn was completely healthy. Creighton was healthy. I think we might get a similar type of game tomorrow.
It'd be great if we do. I'm really looking forward to that game tomorrow. Over in the Big 12, we want to talk about great games. I don't even know where to start. Rocco, why don't we just start at the top and work our way down? The
Sure.
Baylor, K-State, and Oklahoma State, West Virginia. We didn't expect K-State to give Baylor a game, but they did. And then West Virginia, Oklahoma State was just a great game across the board there.
Yeah, and shout out to Bruce Weber. I mean, about 2 weeks ago, this team really started turning it on. You know, they beat TCU twice in those 2 weeks. They also beat Oklahoma. They came into the Baylor game 4 out of 5, and they really battled Baylor. 3 freshmen start and a sophomore. They're not guys that are going to the NBA. This Kansas State team could be real good next year the way they finished. So just a hats off to Bruce Weber in a real difficult year to get a great ending like that. And then as far as the West Virginia Oak State game, I mean, just another war came all the way down to the end. And sure enough, Oak State pulls it out again, 2 straight wins over the Mountaineers. And Cowboys just have all the momentum. So I think that sets up for a great semifinal.
Yeah, this one is going to be really good. I think Baylor wins it, but Oklahoma State has been so impressive all year. It seemed like it took voters, and I realized that the probation was kind of hanging over it. So maybe it was people in a wait and see mode, but it seemed like a lot of the voters and a lot of the bracketologists and a lot of everybody that follows the sport was really slow to recognize how good the Pokes are. But my God, they're good.
They are. And David, how about the bottom half of this bracket then? Kansas, actually had a huge lead over Oklahoma. Oklahoma came storming back, but the Jayhawks were able to hold on. And then Texas Tech was just another great game.
Yeah. This game back and forth, Texas Tech actually led for a lot of it, led late into the game. Texas with some big defensive stops, perhaps some controversial calls or no calls, depending on what your point of view was. Down to the wire, Texas Tech had a chance to win it all the way toward the end. But just another great battle in the Big 12. I don't know the history here, but like we had – I think West Virginia, Oklahoma State, both teams ranked 12th or higher in a quarterfinal game. And Texas and Texas Tech also both in the rankings in a quarterfinal game. So just a really amazing day. We thought that this would be great, and it has been so far.
And Rocco, Kansas, Texas tomorrow also. By the way, after you get done watching Baylor, Oklahoma State, you get to watch Kansas, Texas, and then the winners play on Saturday. I mean,
yeah, these are blockbusters. And I think at this point, they're also, squished on the seed list, that they're just kind of switching places with each other when they win. It's not like a big movement, but they're just really great games to watch and good opportunities for each program, knowing that, like, hey, we go out and battle this team. If we fall short, it's not really going to hurt us that much, and it's going to give us a lot of preparation for the tournament. I think that gives the Big 12 a little advantage that that they're getting to play to such quality competition and then get all this, get so battle tested. I think that's an edge.
Let's stick with the power conferences here and go right on over to the Big Ten, where David, we expected a good game between Maryland and Michigan State. We really didn't get it.
Yeah, what we did kind of get was an impressive showing by Maryland. If there was any doubt, and there weren't many doubts before this, they're probably certainly in at this point. Michigan State also probably in as well, but not, at least when you stack it up to what we saw in the Big 12, probably didn't deliver. The
Uh,
next game did.
Let
We
me
weren't
start,
expecting.
let me start with another question though first. Maryland against Michigan tomorrow. Do you think Maryland has any shot against the
No,
Wolverines?
I
Okay.
don't think so.
Rocco, then Ohio State. We did not expect Minnesota to give Ohio State a game, but they sure as heck did.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State had a huge lead early, and then another big lead, I think, in the second half. And this, I give credit to Marcus Carr, the super point guard for Minnesota. Even though the Gophers have completely fallen apart down the stretch this season, Carr never quits. I mean, he's just a dynamite player. Chances are pretty good. He's probably off to the NBA next year. So it was just one of those fleeting efforts where he didn't want it to be his last game. And hats off to him. This came down to some last second free throws by the Buckeyes to put it away.
Right, and they get Purdue tomorrow. I think that's going to be a real good game.
Yeah, don't forget Purdue swept Ohio State, so they'll make it a little more interesting. It's kind of the reason Purdue's able to be a protected seed so far. Most people would agree, and a third win over the Buckeyes will kind of lock that in.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out tomorrow.
Right, Rutgers, Indiana. It was close for about a half. And my Scarlet Knights just put it away and may have put away the career of a certain Indiana head coach. We'll see what happens with that. But David, they move on to get Illinois tomorrow. I think the game might be closer than people think it's going to be.
Oh, I would agree with that. I mean, I've liked this Rutgers team all year. Probably, I probably overvalued them, to be honest, at the beginning. But yeah, I could see them playing really well against Illinois. I don't think they get it done, but I think that they could make it close, and they're going to be fun to watch in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and the last game of the day ended up being very similar to the Ohio State Minnesota game. Honestly, that Wisconsin also had a very, very big lead, and Penn State came storming back, not only storming back, but had the chance to win it and just could not get the shot off there at the very end.
They kind of went backwards, didn't get a good look on the last play of the game, or what could have been a game-winning possession, but a lot of credit for them to battle back into it the way that they did and even be in that situation.
And Rocco, Whiskey gets Iowa tomorrow.
Yeah, and we saw these two teams play each other down the stretch. We just saw them play on Sunday, in fact. Iowa, the big news, if Wieskamp's not going to be able to play and Nunge, I think, is banged up too, that gives, I think, the Badgers an opening to pull off the win. And if you're Iowa, I don't know how much you need to risk right now. You're probably a 2 seed no matter how this tournament plays out. I could see them maybe folding up the tent tomorrow and letting Wisconsin pass through. But we'll see. If everybody's healthy, then I'm sure they'll make a run at it.
Yeah, but we've got 4 great games tomorrow involving, I mean, we've got a quarterfinal round where I don't remember ever, David, honestly, that we ever had a quarterfinal round in any conference tournament where all 8 teams in the quarterfinal round were already locks for the NCAA tournament at this point. You could have had like 6 locks and 2 bubbles, but we've got 8 locks here.
Yeah. So again, the perfect tune-up for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
It was also first round day in the SEC, and Rocco, we've put a merciful end to the Kentucky basketball season. First of all, thanks to Mississippi State, a good game, a close game. Kentucky made a big comeback here, but could not knock off Mississippi State.
Yeah, couldn't knock off Mississippi State. Got in too big of a hole early. Couldn't overcome it, and it's just a forgotten season probably in the history of Kentucky. But I think it just boils down to something we've talked about a lot this year is when you have a roster just full of so many young kids and you're going through a pandemic and you have all these rules to adhere to, and you're also a big part of Kentucky's system is developing these players quickly, knowing that they're uber talented. I think that delayed a lot of the progress. I think similar things happened at Duke and Michigan State this year. And Kentucky clearly got hit the hardest. And They did have Oliver Sarr come over from Wake Forest and Mintz from Creighton and Toppin from Rhode Island, but they just couldn't get the whole thing to mesh on time. They had a couple nice games, and that's about it.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Real exciting day in the SEC, unexpectedly. This game, of course, was good. Mississippi State with the lead, Kentucky coming back, actually getting a lead, but not to win. Vandy, like, really gave Florida a game.
real game effort from Vandy. Yeah.
Yeah, and Georgia was right in there with Mizzou. Actually led for part of that game. Angry Frank, Ole Miss kind of ran away from them. This is an Ole Miss team. Not to take over though. I love taking over for Chad. It pisses him off, which is. But if Ole Miss wins tomorrow, is that enough?
Well, Rocco, you're the bride. Yeah. Ole Miss gets the need when they need to get South Carolina. Now, if they could beat LSU, especially with everyone else falling apart around them.
Yeah. I think they look really good compared to what's out there. As long as no bid steals happen, I think that's the real key. I just, compared to the rest of the bubble, obviously today's game will help just a smidge, but it doesn't make a huge difference. But I just like the fact that they won at Missouri. They've also won 2 other top 100 games. And again, it's that thin. Like, you can't find another team in this list of teams in this area that have 3 top 100 road wins. Syracuse can't say it. The Mountain West teams can't say it. And so Ole Miss just kind of stands up in that area. And that's, I think, what the committee cares about is what you do on the road and how you did it.
That's why beating LSU tomorrow would be just absolutely huge for their profile.
It absolutely would. Yeah,
Agreed.
Great coaching job by Kermit Davis this year. Took over a bit of a mess when he got there, and he's got them. Even if they don't get in this year, this is a program that has completely turned itself around.
What about these other 3 games tomorrow? Alabama, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Florida, Arkansas, Missouri,
and Kansas and Missouri. Oh, Arkansas and Missouri. Arkansas.
Yeah, Rocco. I think Alabama's going to roll Mississippi State, but the other 2 could be both could be very good games.
Yeah, well, I think Mississippi State, they have to win this, right? So they could be playing desperate. That could be interesting. They played pretty well out of the gate today. So we'll see. And they played Alabama really tough both times this year, single-digit losses. So we'll see. Tennessee, Florida, we just saw that game on Sunday. I call that a coin toss. I mean, I do think Tennessee playing in Nashville might give them a little extra motivation. I think they have some fans in there. And then Arkansas, Mizzou, I think they'll get after each other. It's probably going to be nice for Mizzou to not be the team that's, being taken advantage of. They can now be the hunter instead of the hunted. And I think they'll make that a pretty good game.
It was also a quarterfinal round day in the Mountain West today, which began, David, with San Diego State barely surviving against a Wyoming team that they should have run out of the building.
Yeah, Wyoming, really impressive in this tournament. And I know San Jose State is awful, but I mean, they blew them out the way you would expect a good team to do it, and then took San Diego State to the wall today. And it kind of makes you wonder where more of that was, before the tournament started. But San Diego State, chalk kind of holding there. The game, probably the more noteworthy game was the next one, though. This Boise State Nevada game. Boise State in a tailspin, and they still have a chance of getting in. I'll defer to Rocco with that, but they have certainly not finished well. When a couple weeks ago it looked like they were just going to sleepwalk into the tournament.
Well, David, they did nothing today that they hadn't done all season. They hadn't all season. They could not beat Nevada. They still could not beat Nevada today.
Yeah.
But Rocco, Boise State's on serious life support now.
I think so too. Yeah, it's a 3-loss scenario against Nevada. You start looking at their quadrant breakdown too. It's starting to get pretty messy. 4-7 against Q2. It's really not favorite. It's not looking good compared to what they're up against. And obviously the Fresno State home loss down the stretch is the real black eye on this resume that even put them in this position. And they did have Abu Kigab out the last 2 games, both the Fresno loss and today's loss, but by and large, like the performance, they had enough horses out there to get it done, and they just didn't defend. Nevada just ran up and down the court on them. They did everything they wanted to do offensively at will, and that's a really bad last impression for the committee, I think.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah. The bottom half of the bracket there, we saw Utah State took care of you. It was close for about a half. They took care of UNLV in the second half. Fresno State and Colorado State was probably closer about 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Colorado State finally put them away, which I actually kind of thought we might see an upset in that game. But David, we set up a couple of interesting semifinals now: Utah State, Colorado State, and San Diego State, Nevada.
Yeah, Nevada, I'm almost certain, as well as they've been playing down the stretch, their only way in is the auto bid. So
Absolutely.
they're sort of playing for their tournament life. But having said that, they're playing well enough to where they might do it. This is going to be a fun game to watch. It's a not because Nevada is they're playing well and they're playing for their lives. This other game is very bubblicious. Utah State, Colorado State. I think Colorado State maybe barely in and Utah State maybe barely out, but that can flip tomorrow. And, you know, the winner, more importantly, whether it puts them in or not, they're one win away from getting in anyway.
Well, Rocco, let me ask you this question, though. With Utah State, Colorado State, is the loser out and is the winner in, regardless of what happens in the championship game?
I don't think it's that simple. I think
Okay.
Utah State needs to win it. I don't see a way Utah State gets in with a loss. And so Utah State needs to win it. If that happens, Colorado State definitely still has a chance. So I think that's the best scenario for the league. And then in the other semifinal, I think you look back when Nevada went to Viejas, they played 2 games down to the wire and lost them both. But David's absolutely right. Nevada could win this thing. I really think they could. So yeah, all four of these. I'm looking at all 4 of these teams in play for a bit. Honestly,
I'll tell you. You say that Utah State beating Colorado State could be the best scenario for the league. It also could be the worst if Utah State beats Colorado State and then San Diego State wins this whole thing.
And then they don't.
There's a chance for a 1-bid Mountain West. I don't think it's going to happen, but there is an outside chance that happens also, because I do agree that Utah State has the weakest profile at the moment. Maybe a little bit better than Boise now, just because they still have more chances. Boise does not have another chance.
Yeah. One of the things I'll say, and I have to say this about Colorado State, they'd be in a little bit better shape had they played better teams when, if only they had the chances to.
We are going to discuss the Pac-12 as well. We're going to hold off on that for a few minutes. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the podcast because we're actually recording this before the last game of the night is over here. But let's jump to some of the smaller conferences. Let's go to the Metro Atlantic, where we saw the final 2 of the quarterfinals, where David, we saw St. Peter's roll Rider and become, congratulations, a higher seeded team win a game, but that didn't happen in the late game when Niagara then pulled a mild upset over Marist.
Yeah, so St. Peter's the highest remaining seed. I guess they were anyway, even coming into today.
3, 5, 7, 9 in the semifinals.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised by this. I was expecting Marist. I thought that they were playing a little better at the end, but a real big win by Niagara to keep their season alive. This Iona team, you had alluded to this the other night. I'll repeat it tonight. This tournament was seeded by total wins, not win percentage. And Iona, because they didn't get to play in as many games, didn't have as many wins. So the 9 seed is a little bit there's a big asterisk.
They would have been the 2 seed if you seeded it by win percentage. That's the asterisk. And Rocco, I think I liked it better than Niagara in that semifinal. I think they might be the favorite to win the tournament right now, despite being the 9 seed.
I think they have the most athletic team for sure. St. Peter's, has the big man Casey and Defo at the rim there, and they can get out in transition. They also obviously had more games to prepare, but yeah, I would pick Iona to play St. Peter's and then a pretty good championship game.
Yeah. It was quarterfinal round day in the Big Sky tournament today.
Yeah.
Where in the early games we saw the Southern Utah hold off a tough charging Northern Colorado team. Bodie Hume is a star there for Northern Colorado, and I think he had about 387 points in today's game, if I counted correctly. Something close, something north of 30. That's for certain. And Rocco, they get Montana State tomorrow, who took care of Idaho State.
Yeah, Montana State, impressed with the win. I've been high on Idaho State all year. I was very impressed by their fourth place finish, or at least fourth seed here. And today they just ran out of gas. Montana State recovering from a little bit of stumble themselves the last couple of weeks to get going here in the Big Sky tournament at the right time. And I think Danny Sprinkle's, a bright young coach, could be a really good semifinal, but between an unproven, albeit highly successful already Southern Utah team. Kind of a crapshoot semifinal.
Yeah, I think it is. I am going to slightly go with Southern Utah as the pick, but I don't think it's a slam dunk by any means.
Yeah.
David,
Yeah.
Eastern Washington got a battle from Northern Arizona, but did survive. Montana had, got by Weber State if they had a big lead that Weber came back on them.
Yeah, Montana. I was kind of big on this Weber State team too. This was the game I was looking forward to the most. Montana looked like they had blown it open, and with so much else going on, I'd kind of quit paying attention to it. I believe they were up by more than 20 in the second half, or close to that. But
With about 7 minutes left there, I think they had like a 22-point lead, and Weber came storming back.
Yeah, storming back. So, I got back there for it from the end, but a real good comeback by Weber. Unfortunately, not enough. This Eastern Washington Montana game, I agree with Rocco. It's going to be kind of a crapshoot semifinal. I still like Southern Utah. At least I like the story. I'm rooting for the good story of one of the more improved programs in Division I to finish first place. It would be great if they could finish this off and get the bid. Todd Simon just done a phenomenal, unbelievable job, really, since arriving there. At the rate at which this program has improved. But Montana State is capable of playing well. It won't be easy tomorrow.
I'll tell you what, the games were good, but the real story of the Big Sky tournament today was color analyst Joe Craven's former Weber State head coach, who was absolutely amazing on the broadcast today. If you did not see him, hopefully he'll be on the semifinals tomorrow. I just got to read off a quote that he gave from the game today. I think this was from the early games.
This was on Pluto TV, the greatest television broadcasting ever.
Trying to win a game without a point guard is like trying to drive down the highway without a steering wheel. Believe me, I know. He did qualify that as that he was actually talking about winning a game without a point guard, not driving without he was just incredible. He's become my new favorite color analyst, I think, after some of the comments he made today. But that was the day in the Big Sky. It was also let's jump over to the Conference USA. It was quarterfinal round day in Conference USA. And David, let me start with you on this conference up top there, where Western Kentucky got a bit of a game from San Antonio, but did pull them away, and you got a big game from Rice also.
Yeah, Western Kentucky, the runners kept it reasonably close, but it never felt like to me that Western Kentucky wasn't in control of it. So there's that one. Rice, for about the first 30 minutes, was right in there, and I think they actually had a lead with about 10 minutes to go. This being their third game in 3 days, with a limited bench, they finally just kind of got tired and ran out of gas. UAB gets the win and gets to the semis tomorrow. But do you
think UAB has a shot against Western Kentucky?
They have a shot, but not much of one.
Oh, Rocco, what about the bottom half of this bracket here, where even though it was an upset in the late game, I don't think really was an upset. I think these are the two teams we thought would win today.
That's who I would have picked, at least. Old Dominion, was feeling good, splitting with WKU last week, almost swept them. But this North Texas team has been outstanding all year, and it's good to see them turn it around. Like, they finished with getting swept by UAB last week, and was a little concerned about their prospects and how the heck that happened. But they're a very well coached team. We've all liked Grant McCaslin for a long time, and one of these years they're going to break through. It could be this year. And in the other game, Louisiana Tech got a lot tougher fight from Florida Atlantic. I think mainly because one of their key players, Kobe Williams, didn't dress and still didn't find out why he didn't. So that ended up being a seesaw battle all the way through. A little bit of scuffle after the game. I don't know if you guys were watching, but the Bulldogs did survive. So that sets up some interesting storylines for the La Tech North Texas semi.
Yeah, well, who do you like in that game?
I'll go North Texas just because
Yeah.
I think Louisiana Tech's got some interesting things happening, and I'm not sure what's going on there. And
Yeah,
North Texas I like anyway, so that's an easy
I
fallback.
agree.
David, it was, I guess we'll call this final round day in the Southland tournament. But wait, we've got to fix the
No,
screen
no,
here. We've got to fix the screen here again.
semifinal day. Yeah,
There we go.
it was semifinal day in the Louisiana and Texas region.
Louisiana and Texas regions of the Southland tournament.
I love this.
Let's start with the Louisiana region, where New Orleans was down big early, but made a nice comeback here but could not quite catch Northwestern State.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised because I thought Northwestern State would handle them, and it looked like for a while that they were. I thought I was a genius for saying that they would yesterday, but New Orleans, I mean, they came back, made a game of it, but Northwestern State gets the win and gets Nichols tomorrow for the Louisiana Regional Championship.
Did you think they could beat Nichols?
I don't think so, but
well, all right, let me go to.
I mean, they can, but I think that. I mean, they're good enough to beat them, but I don't think they're quite as good as Nichols.
Yeah, and the other, Rocco, what about the Texas region, where we saw a heck of an upset?
That's right. Hey, these Lamar Cardinals, 6 in a row now. I've been trying to tell you guys, they've really just been playing so much better the last few weeks. I didn't know for sure if they'd beat Sam Houston, but I knew they were playing well enough to give them a run. And the whole streak, I think, started with the Sam Houston game 2.5 weeks ago. That came all the way down to the wire. They lost by 6, and today they get over the hump against the same team. It came down to a foul call with under 2 seconds left. Lamar on the line makes 1 out of 2, and Sam Houston had to hoist something from full court. Didn't go in. So just a kind of a nice break, but the Cardinals outplayed them, I thought, almost the whole game.
Yeah, and do you think that the Cardinals have what it takes to take it down the Abilene Christian in the Texas Region Championship game tomorrow?
I just can't see it because Abilene Christian, Chad, is a team that's just so huge on the front line. Lamar's like a bunch of scrappy guards. They can create space and get open looks, but Abilene Christian's going to probably at least once or twice in that game make Lamar go through droughts, and I think that's just going to be way too much to overcome.
Yeah, and I think this is why I was picking Nichols to win this tournament, actually, because I thought that that Sam Houston would take a lot out of Abilene. Whoever came out of that game might be, kind of beat up going into the championship. Now with Sam Houston out of it, I'm going the other way, and I'm going Abilene to win this thing at this point.
Yeah, they've got to be the favorite here.
It was quarterfinal round day in the Big West Conference. And Rocco, let me stick with you. You are a Big West guy here, and UCC. Well, how about Long Beach State, who surprised us on Tuesday with the win over Northridge, and then surprised us with the game effort they gave the Gauchos today.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, they kicked Michael Carter III off the team last week, and they're playing better without him. Sometimes it's weird how that happens. Maybe there was something in the locker room that needed to be cleared up, and with kind of that gone and them clearing their heads and have nothing to lose, they just played really loose and free, and they scored a ton of points the last 2 days. They just fell a little short, but they got Santa Barbara to play their style, which I think is a pretty impressive result overall. Just wasn't enough.
Yeah, now the Gauchos get UC Davis, who had a great game. It was Ezra Manuel with a reverse layup for the win, pretty much at the buzzer for
it was
UC Davis. It was
incredible, like for the game to end the way that it did. Yeah,
absolutely. And a great year for Bakersfield. Tough way to end it.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, they really did have a good year. Newcomers to the Big West, relatively new anyway. So, yeah, you hate to. It's always rough when the year ends, but man, sometimes it's rougher than others.
Yeah, I think Santa Barbara's going to take care of Davis tomorrow. I think they're too strong for them. I think they got their bit of their scare today also. But David, the bottom of the bracket there, we saw Irvine and Riverside get battled a little bit, get tested, but they both did what they needed to do to advance to. If our friend John Sleeka was here, what he would tell us was the Rivervine Cup tomorrow.
Yes, and again another edition of the Rivervine Cup tipping off at midnight. We'll be coming to you pretty late tomorrow night.
We'll be doing our show right after the Rivervine Trophy is
Yeah.
awarded. So
So, because there's 2 midnight tips tomorrow. We had one at 12:30, but we kind of cheated tonight. But I'm looking forward to both these. Davis, I don't think they'll stay with the Gauchos, but I'm really looking forward to this to the Rivervine Cup. When do you never not look forward to that?
Rocco, it was, I guess we'll call quarterfinal round day in the WAC today, where California Baptist, their first ever D1 conference tournament, surprisingly did not play very well against Seattle, and New Mexico State, not surprisingly, played very well against Rio Grande.
Yeah, so I'll start with New Mexico State. I think these last 4 games now, they've been blowing teams out,
Yeah.
albeit it was just 2 games against UTRGV and 2 against Dixie State. But it just kind of feels like they're getting their mojo at the right time. And if they end up getting the bid, it's going to be very weird to see how they get seeded as a 13-7 WAC team
Yeah.
that didn't play out of conference at anybody. So that's an interesting storyline coming their way. And on the other side, Seattle U just played really great defense. Cal Baptist is a big time perimeter team. They hit 23s in that game when they sent USC to overtime way back in November. And Seattle U just came out with a great game plan, took away the perimeter. Cal Baptist got uncomfortable, and Seattle U just ran away with it. So great win for the program. Red Hawks don't get to the semifinals very often, so this is exciting back home.
Yeah, David, interesting. The Red Hawks get Grand Canyon. I think the Lopes will take them. The Utah Valley New Mexico State game could be a real good one, though. Utah Valley was playing really strong down the stretch as well.
Yeah, these are 2 teams that, as you said, had sort of hit their mojo at the right time. So this one's going to be fun, and it should be for an interesting championship game. But how much fun would it be? Again, the Lopes and New Mexico State. Kind of a fun rivalry in this conference. To see them going at it in the championship would be fun. If that happens, get on Twitter. You will not be disappointed. The fans go at it, and it's awesome.
We had quarterfinal round day today in the Mid-American Conference, and I think we said last night that when we were looking at this bracket, we saw 8 teams that had a legitimate shot at winning the conference tournament. And now we have 4 teams with a legitimate shot to win it because we got through 4 games. David, you had a comment on it?
Well, yeah. Well, now I was just going to say, that number has been cut in half. It's 4 now. Toledo needing overtime to get by Ball State. I didn't think they would struggle as much as they did to get that win. But the game that impressed me was this Ohio team that's been battling COVID, coming out of the shutdown. We had seen what they can do. You may recall early in the year we were really big on them. Particularly, they took Illinois to overtime really early in the season, playing one of the better games that they've played in a while. I really like this Bobcats team right now.
Yeah, Rocco, I'm high on this Bobcats team. I think this is the team that's going to win this whole thing here at this point.
Yeah, I'm kind of wait and see mode still. I do agree they're playing much better, and I just don't know what to make of this result today because right before tip off, Danny Pippen, all MAC player for Kent State, got scratched. I don't know why. These kinds of things are happening all year this year, and Kent State just wasn't themselves at all today. So I don't know if it was more that because of that or just because Ohio was awesome. But I do agree that Ohio is playing much better. I do think Buffalo as well, they've been sustaining themselves for quite a while now as a legitimate threat. And in the other the other quarter, I was a little surprised Akron was able to overcome Bowling Green. I thought Bowling Green was poised for a run, so I airballed on this one. But really good game. And Akron was my preseason pick. I like all 4. I really could see any of the 4 taking it still.
Yeah. It was also this was one of the other breaking stories. The next stuff we're going to move to MEAC. It was what we call quarterfinal round day, which began with a pretty good game between Morgan State and Florida A&M, followed by a blowout by Norfolk State over NC Central, which we found out today that North Carolina A&T has been shut down because that they had positive tests. They will not be participating despite being actually having the best conference record of all 6 of these teams here. Norfolk State, therefore, with their win over NC Central, moves right on to the championship game. And interestingly enough, though, Rocco, the 3 teams we've been looking at all season that we thought were the 3 best teams were Norfolk, Coppin, and Morgan. And those are the 3 teams left.
Yeah, I think, first of all, really another sad
Mm.
story here with North Carolina A&T not being able to compete for the title. I know they only played a handful of teams out of the MEAC, maybe only three, but they at least deserve that chance, and it's unfortunate they won't get it. As far as the other three, I feel like whoever comes out will represent the MEAC well and be a really strong contender to win the play-in game. I'm sure that's where they're going to land.
Yeah.
And, Norfolk, you look at them, they beat George Mason and Radford and James Madison this year. So they could clearly do it. Morgan State beat Iona. And I know Coppen's done some things. So, yeah.
Juan Dixon, they're a Coppin,
Yeah, and Juan Dixon. Yeah. So I'm not sure who my pick is. Morgan State's the only team I've watched closely. So I guess I'll go with the Bears.
All right, David, it was first round day in the American. While this is considered one of the more major conferences, the first round day is not a major conference day. But we ended up with a couple pretty good games actually out of this league here.
Yeah, sometimes these opening round games can be, you just kind of got to get through them. But the games today were pretty good. South Florida Temple was close all throughout. South Florida getting the win. I don't think they go very much further, but that was good.
Any further.
Yeah, any further. And then, I still am pulling for this Tulane program. I really like. I think they're very, very well coached. So much so that I can't remember that Ron Hunter. That's the name I'm looking for. I think he'll get them going eventually. They knocked out Frank Haith's Tulsa team, and again, I don't see them going much further either or any further. But UCF, a bit of a team to watch here. They've been kind of hot and cold, mostly cold. They had some big wins earlier in the year. I think they've dealt with injuries and some other stuff, but they might be able to squeeze Memphis a little bit tomorrow.
Yeah, well, Rocco, what do you think about these four quarterfinals? 'Cause this is where it starts getting a little more interesting, although maybe it gets really interesting if we get the top four seeds into the semis.
Yeah, I think the two interesting ones are certainly the most interesting is certainly SMU. Coming off such a long break, I don't have no idea how they're going to perform or who's going to even be available. That's always something you got to monitor about 30 minutes before tip off. Cincinnati actually is their only really bad loss on the year. When they lost them at home, it's a Q3 loss. And so the only time they met. So Cincinnati will have a little extra confidence knowing they can beat this team and that whole COVID variable. And then the other one, David was just touching on, UCF taking on Memphis. They played each other back-to-back this year. Memphis was able to win both. UCF's coming in now with 5 straight wins against the lower half of the league. We'll see if that can carry into a upper echelon opponent like Memphis.
A couple conferences left to go to, and let's go to the let's go right there.
Yeah,
it was
the logo.
The second day of the quarterfinals in the Southwestern Athletic Conference with the greatest logo we've ever seen in the history of college basketball.
Yeah, it's just remarkable. I mean, we looked into this, and it was decided that the logo was there first. That it was so big that they couldn't get it into the building, so they had to build the building around the logo.
Oh, we had the third and the fourth quarterfinals. Texas Southern took care of Alcorn State fairly easily in the first, but the last game of the day was the 4-5 game. It was our first good game of the SWAC tournament, and it was a heck of a game. And if you watch the end of regulation here, when you saw Grambling up by 4, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, Southern was up. Yeah. Southern turned it over. Southern was up, weren't they?
Southern was up. Grambling cut it to 2. Southern decides to goes to inbound the ball with about 10 seconds left, and decide to inbound it to a Grambling player pretty much.
Right under the basket, wide open.
Which allowed the Tigers to tie the game, force overtime, and Grambling gets the win. And Rocco, Grambling looking for the first ever NCAA tournament bid, but they're going to have to get through Prairie View tomorrow now to get there.
Yeah, crazy game. Grambling Southern in any sport is just awesome. So
yeah, it is.
You had to figure something was gonna,
especially when it's played on that.
Yeah,
there you go. I was wondering if the logo is covering up a volleyball court. That's pretty amazing.
It is a volleyball court.
It is.
Yeah.
So Grambling, they played Prairie View just last Thursday. didn't play. It was a good game. They lost by 7. I think they'll hang, but I gotta take Prairie View.
Yeah, and we've got the great story here of the potential of two teams that have not lost at all against conference opponents, potentially meeting in the championship game, as neither Prairie View or Jackson,
Yes.
Prairie View and
Yeah,
Jackson did not play each other during the regular season due to some
crazy.
cancellations. But Jackson State's got to get by Texas Southern, David. I don't know that they can. I think Texas Southern might get this game.
They certainly looked better in the quarterfinal rounds earlier today, but I don't know. I still believe that we can get Jackson State and Prairie View unbeaten on the logo. When you are watching this tournament, you not it's not just you that knows it. Your neighbors know it. Their children know it. Everyone can see it. That it is just announcing through the bullhorn that this is the SWAC tournament.
Well, I tried to save it for last to see if the
Phenomenal.
last game would go final. It did not, but it's almost done. But Pac-12 tournament. Let's go. Let's run back there right now, where we saw Oregon take care of Arizona State, and then a pretty big upset here, Rock Actually, Oregon State over UCLA, and suddenly making UCLA maybe have to sweat a little bit on Sunday.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, UCLA had a huge lead early, up 18 right out of the gates. Oregon State just kept grinding, got back in it at the end. A lot of like very controversial officiating activity happening, both with reviews and phantom foul calls on both sides. But Oregon State just really kind of withstood all of that. UCLA seemed to be more bothered, and just tremendous gutsy win. Wayne Tinkle, I think Andy Enfield ended up winning Pac-12 Coach of the Year, but I thought Tinkle pretty much deserved it. I mean, he lost his son last year. He lost the other Thompson brother. They had really nothing besides Ethan this year coming back, and they finished 5th. It's just he's just done probably the best job he's done his entire tenure in Corvallis.
Yeah, and now this sets up the big rivalry here, Oregon State tomorrow. You can't go against State Altman in March though. So
Yeah, and I agree with everything Rocco said, and this should be a fun one. I mean, it normally is. You kind of hate that the fans aren't there because God, would they be into this one? But I just think Oregon is going 100 miles an hour right now. I think they're going to charge through this tournament and then charge through maybe the first couple rounds of the NCAA's.
yeah, David, in the third game of the day, double overtime.
Yeah.
Utah really had their chances to knock off USC, just could not do it though.
No, they couldn't. Not that USC needed it to get in, but I think that this kind of helps stabilize not just their profile, but their momentum and confidence a little bit. So a nice win for the Trojans. They'll probably get Colorado tomorrow, who is up 3 with the ball with about 25 seconds to go and a 10-second differential between the game clock and shot clock. Here we go.
Yeah,
yeah.
But yeah, they will be playing probably Colorado. Although maybe it could be Cal still. If you want to find out who won that game, you have to check out the conference tournament tab up top there.
Yeah.
We'll be able to get it. Maybe we'll even come back and discuss it here at the very end of the show tonight, because we got a couple of things to hit. Starting with our survival board.
Yes. And
this is our list of, we already ruined it. There's a surprise. That's the amount of teams that are left here.
So we got 114.
I was supposed to show you this screen here first, but that didn't even work. It's all messed up. So a little
Chad's been having all kinds of technical difficulties here.
Anyhow,
the game is over. Colorado has won. It was the most unspectacular finish you've ever seen as far as last possessions go.
Okay, well, Rocco, what do you think about Colorado? What do you think about Colorado USC tomorrow then?
Colorado USC. So here, going back to the pre-tournament picks, Colorado dominated USC both times. I'll take the Buffaloes.
All right. Now getting back to the survival board there, as a result of today's games, actually with Cal now losing, it will drop to 113 teams remaining. We were at 160 heading into the day. So big jump down tonight in the amount of teams remaining. But David, this is also a tool that we're doing for the selection committee, correct?
Yes, and we've seen them in the room. They've been looking at it. Presumably, they have the internet in there. They have computers, so they're on it. But it basically shows them, who is a lock, who they absolutely need to take, who they need to be discussing and considering, and then who they need to ignore unless that team wins the automatic bid.
Right. So
Yeah.
teams that are in bold and all caps, those are automatic bid winners. They are
Yeah.
in, like Liberty and Winthrop on the screen there. Teams in bold, like every single team left in the Big 12 there, are in no matter what. So
Yeah.
if they're wondering whether they should take all 7 of those Big 12 teams, the answer is yes.
Yes.
Teams that are just a regular type, uh, like the Big Sky there, only if they win the automatic bid. And the
Yeah.
teams that are in italics, like let's say a team like St. John's or Seton Hall or Xavier on here, those are teams that they need to be debating, correct?
Yeah. And again, like if necessary, we can help them debate those teams. That's one of the things we've been doing with our mock committee. Are we going to show the results of that real quick?
Sure. We can get the
Yeah.
results of the mock committee potentially here. Well, we
Right.
can at least discuss them because I don't actually have them available to be on the screen for some reason.
Okay.
But um,
Well, it's down. It's down there. Well, it's linked in this post as well. It's linked up there, and if you want to scroll down, it's down there. John Stalika doing a recap of what we did today. We didn't do much today, really. We got our initial ballots in. We got. I think what did we have?
if I
33 on
did
the
it
initial.
correctly, it should be on the screen now. Do I
Oh,
have it on
okay.
the
It
screen?
is on the screen right there.
Okay, there
Yeah.
we go. We had our mock committee begin today. What we did was we had our initial ballots, as a result of which every team here from Alabama through Wisconsin got voted in. Those 30 teams got voted in. We then had a couple rounds of voting in which Rutgers, Connecticut, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, Maryland, St. Bonaventure, Michigan State, and Wichita State all got voted in with at-large bids. So
Yeah.
uh, those teams, according to our mock committee, at the moment are in. We while we have more than 37 teams in already, because various conferences
Open up more
get
bids.
open up basically as a team that's in as an at-large bid wins an automatic bid, another at-large spot opens up. So we know that every Big 12 team that's left still playing is already in. So therefore, we knew that one spot would open up. At this point, every ACC and every Big 10 team. So we'll at least fill those
Yeah.
2 spots tomorrow. So that's where we are.
Mhm.
So Real Selection Committee, if you want to follow it along with that, that's where you should be as well.
Right, and this is about where they should be as well. And again, sometimes like they just get busy. They have other jobs, so we have to help them out, do it for them. If they need help debating the teams, they can come to this page and see who we took as a reference.
The hot seat.
Oh yes, I forgot about this.
Okay, this is our hoops hot seat. Rocco's
It's
shaking
late
his head, I
afternoon.
think.
I'm
Where-
bracing myself.
this is
Right.
where we've been going over coaches that need to stay on our survival board. They've been, they might be on the hot seat here.
Yeah,
We talked about Mick Cronin. We talked about Nick Saban last night. Because Nate Oates, of the job he's doing, they don't really need Nick Saban in Alabama.
yeah, they don't need it. Scott Drew,
And David,
unable to fill his arena. Indiana's next head coach, I believe, has already been fired.
David, we're talking about the selection committee and what their job is, and things such as following along with the survival board. Well,
Yes.
if they don't follow along the survival board, they could have problems.
Well,
And in
yeah,
fact, as a result of that, and because while we think they're going to do a pretty good job, every now and then they mess things up.
yeah.
Let's take a look at who's on our hot seat tonight.
I think I know who this. It's
It-
Mitch
it's
Barnhart.
Mitch
the-
Barnhart.
It's
Goodness.
Kentucky. It's
Now,
the Kentucky
He's
Athletic.
not on the hot seat for his job as Kentucky athletic director, but he is very much on the hot seat for his job as the chair of the selection committee. In fact,
He
I
may
really don't think
yeah.
he's gonna be back there next year.
Probably not. And some of the things that bothered me, this was a red flag right away when we saw on Twitter that they had selected 25 teams on their initial ballot. And then when you look at the survival board, it's like, well, we had bolded 27. And that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of mistake that can get you removed as chair. He may not be back next year.
Yeah, Mitch, you've been on the committee for about 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
But you got to do a real good job here this
Yeah.
last week, or you may not be back as chair next season.
Yeah.
On that note, let's go ahead and pull us out of any final thoughts, Rocco.
Oh, poor Mitch. That's a tough gig. Yeah, it was just an incredible day. I thought the obviously the bubble picture stands out the most because there's just so much to be determined still. We're tracking the bid thieves on my site and having fun with that. Right now Georgetown and Seton Hall very well positioned, only 2 wins away as well. Nevada in that same position, so we'll definitely get a couple out of the American as well. As long winner of Memphis and UCF, as well as the winner of SMU and Cincy. So again, we'll see. I think there's a possibility of up to 3 bid thieves still. Perhaps we only get 1, perhaps we get none, but it makes this week even more fun, never knowing exactly how many bids are up for grabs.
I really hope we get 1 or 2 because I don't like the bottom of the bubble right
Yeah.
now.
I agree 100% on that.
David.
Sort of to echo what Rocco said about what a fun day it is. When you look at the days on the college sports calendar, at least for me, Thursday of championship week ranks way up there. I'd probably even rank it ahead for me personally of the first Thursday and Friday of the NCAA tournament. Well, Friday and Saturday this year. Another day I love is the last Saturday of the regular season when you have the mix of big regular season games and some of the smaller conference tournament games that are getting down to the championship rounds. The first day of the season in a normal year anyway is also great, but I don't know. Like the one thing about that's nice about the Thursday of championship week is that it's followed by the Friday of championship week, which, while not as good as far as the number of games, still a lot of good games. It was just last year we didn't get to have this. It felt good to be back in it this year. We got our Thursday of championship week.
Yeah, it feels real good to actually be getting in.
Yeah.
These are the days that we missed. Beginning
Yeah.
with today was the days that we missed last year, and we're going to keep going here. I know we've had shutdowns. We've had a handful of teams that were not able to either not compete in the conference tournaments at all, or got shut down after starting their conference tournaments. Notably Duke, Northern Iowa, North Carolina A&T. Feel bad for them, but hopefully we get through all clean. Rocco.
Oh, I just said Jacksonville.
Oh, Jacksonville, yes.
And Northern. Oh, you mentioned Northern.
Charleston Southern was another one, yeah.
Yeah.
But on that note, on behalf of Rocco Miller, David Griggs, you can check Rocco out at bracketeer.org and check out his what you call the Bid Thieves board. It's
the Bid Thieves board.
Definitely check that out as well. But I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. Be back again some ungodly hour tomorrow night with another one of these podcasts. And